I was just going to keep this little video short, but it's not like it haunts me, but I can remember one of the most important things that the Voyager materials speakers had talked about was Ashadan talked about competition. And she talked about like a control group. They couldn't figure out, they meaning we, how did this happen? We're talking about the polarized consciousness, the ping pong. And because, I grew up as a small child being put in a military academy. So that's a hierarchy. And I'm not a hierarchy. I'm equal unto all I give love to, because I experience being one with all creation. So I experience what love is. So that's what I share with the all creation. That means I know how to light myself on fire, because I do not hold one electron captive, because that'll slow your speed down. If you want to run at the highest speed there is, you want to be with the one, and you are. That's a beloved. That's simple enough, and that's logic. A child should not have to explain that to a parent, because I'm still a child. I've never left home base since I was 4. When I realized, translating the language of the grid, I'm here, I've arrived, this is where I was supposed to be, because I wrote my own timeline. Okay? And as crazy as that sounds, when you realize you heard so many stories to tell, but why would somebody choose to be a drug addict and an alcoholic and end up in 6 hospitals and homeless shelters and all the rest of it? And it would take me forever to explain it, and to be truthful with you, but that's the truth. Part of it, when you think of a polarity integrator, is a multitasker on steroids, as they say. It's just like, if I use Misha as an example of what I've experienced by having spent time with her, why it's made it so difficult for her to recover body parts, fragments, if you will, that she's lost, that she's trying to recover. What she said to me one day is, my spirit is bent. Okay, she's wanting your energy. She's wanting your energy because she's desperately seeking Susan to recover the energy, so that she's not holding her own minds captive to something that's not serving her, which is herself. What she's held captive by, she can't get rid of. And what she can't rid of is something that's feeding on her, which is a vampire. Okay, so one of the exercises her and I did together is like, imagine that you just came into the universe and you were being loved and you were experiencing what love is. It goes on forever. And then you got traumatized, and now you're experiencing something that isn't what love is, because you're being abused. So now you have to recover that part of you, okay, that became an altar, because that piece went dark. Instead of experiencing the light, it went dark, because that piece that was once you is somewhere else. That would be like an alternate universe that is darkness. It's another you, but the you that you used to be isn't the same. And that's what an altered dissociative identity disorder, which is dishonor, because it's disharmony, and it's distorted. So that's why she's in the tug of war. Now, this doesn't even get into all the force feeding experiment stuff with altering codes, removing codes, edit changes, and all those kinds of stuff that are all against the law. Okay? For the reasons that they do it in order to hold energy captive, cause folks to suffer. Right? I mean, think about it. The girl gives you the ability to self-repair because she doesn't want to see you. Even if you hurt yourself, you have the ability to fix yourself so you can still have fun and keep your spirit up. Okay, so when they do what they do, you realize why they do that. They don't want you to experience being in a state of love and joy. That's sort of like misery loves company. Like going into a bar. I'm a recovered alcoholic and drug addict. So it's not like I don't understand what it's like to experience massive trauma, because I was experiencing it every day since the day I came in here. And it can be overwhelming if you don't know how to restore yourself, because that's for all the marbles. It'll suck you right down that drain pipe. Right? So the first thing I realized, they're in competition to each other. So I grew up with a lot of competitive sports, because that's what they're pushing. It's all about games. Play games, play games, play games. Ping pong against each other, right? Opponents. Checkerboard. It's all binary. It's all binary coded. One against the other. One against the other. So my dad worked for corporations, and my father, even though my father was a human angelic, My father thought that the corporation, when you're in competition against each other, that somehow drives motivation to build a better product. But what my father didn't understand, that I tried to share with him, that is actually a stupid way to do it. And the reason that it is such logic that it's, if you're experiencing what love is as a node in a network, a formation of consciousness, experiencing what love is, you're experiencing the highest speed accelerator. That means you're learning at the highest rate of speed. You connect a unit of consciousness, a soul that is experiencing eternal love, connects to another soul that is experiencing what love is as a co-creator, a sound magician, is experiencing the eternal spirit of fire. You are expanding a universe that is in love with itself at the highest rate of speed. That means that they will always be behind because they're chasing electrons. So they're always going to be in a hole because they're never catching up to zero. So they're in a track meet. So they're always living on borrowed time, which is borrowed energy. So there has to be a source of energy for these folks to compete against each other, believing that this is the way in which they can improve things, come up with a better product. And this is why their stuff is obsolete before they ever started, because there are others that are so far ahead of them. And that's called a curve, which is called a curve space, which is a curve space currents. So when you're experiencing the one, you learn at the highest rate of speed. That's why they hate us. Okay? Because they're not learning at that speed. And why is it? Because they're not choosing to learn at that speed. Now you enter free will. So they're panicked because they realize, my God, that's why they go after us. That's why they go after the indigos. Because of what an indigo can hold. Not just in energy, but the information that can unpack by virtue of getting the downloads, if you will, passing the information on, because these folks are holding the higher frequencies and the codes and the maps that are laying it all out. So it's just like, how many folks are actually paying attention to this information and knowing that this is like valuable stuff? But you wouldn't know that if you're not able to map that in which to know that based on the template that you're running. You see what I'm saying? So when I lit myself on fire with a full phosphorus ignition, what does that essentially mean? You're in service, back to service mode. Full service mode. So that's like full recalibration. Now I'm back with one, but I'm always with one. Right? So what I had to do is recover my body parts. Right? Particularly when you're an oversold polarity integrator. Because when you're a transmutation machine, you become a target. Because these are big jobs that polarity integrators have to do. It means you're exposed to everything. And you gotta be able to keep a clear signal, anchored to mama, in order to clear all the distortion, which is the DNA debris fields. So that we can get a communication signal out so people can read our intelligence. Right? So we're not running a bunch of noise. Right? You've seen that, when you turn the dial, what the fuck is that? Man, I can't translate that for nothing. That's what it is. It's distorted music. So these are antenna wars. What's your frequency wars? What's your timeline wars? Because what it's all about is control, because that's what competition is. Well, I don't want them to have the gates. I want the gates. Right? Because now what we're actually back to is called trust. And so trust goes back to the word of honor, which deals with honor, love, and honor. Love and honor. If you honor the one, you honor the highest code of honor. Right? It means I can trust you. It means if you give me your word, I know I can go the other way. And if I come back, the place isn't going to be fucked up. That's called delegated authority. Isn't that sort of how it works in the military hierarchy? You know what I'm saying? If I give you a command function, right? I'm not going to come down and find out you burned up 500 people on a fire, right? Or no, I lost 40 divisions of troops somewhere because I don't know what I'm doing. So it always deals with intelligence. Are you getting the proper intelligence? Right? To know what the fuck is going on. Right? So when you're in the one, you always know what's going on. Because you're with the highest accelerator that's going to let you know what's going on. Because you're learning at a higher rate of speed than they are. That means you have the highest state of awareness, and that makes it easy to know what one from the other. So that's choosing the one you're with. So we're not competitors, we're collaborators. And collaborators, when you see a network grow, it's going to grow at the highest rate of speed. That's how it got built, the first one. Hey, have fun. So now it's like coming back and see what our children do. Oh, they wreck the place. That'd be the founders. Right? So the founders and the guardians got to come back and clean it up. Clean up the mess these children do. Which are the seeded races. Because they haven't learned how to, I'll just say it, grow up. Okay? Throw the technology in there. Hey, look at the toy that I got. And that's really what it is. You know? It's like a blowhard that's got the latest toy on the market. Oh, whoa. And then when you understand the acceleration of learning, wow, look what they got. Right? I want that. Now we're back to it's mine. Because they didn't develop it. Because somebody else developed it. Because they're smarter than you. Because their state of learning and wanting to serve is moving such a high rate of speed, right? That they can't catch up. And if they can't catch up, they're always behind. So that means that everything that they're generating is obsolete before they ever started. And that's what I was noticing when I was a child. Okay? Because they don't move at that rate of speed to develop anything that has any future value. Because it's going to self-destruct on itself. And it doesn't take a genius to figure that out, because I knew that at 6 years of age. So this is why when I saw, what's her name, Tanith of Silver Legion say these are universe killers, it's like, duh. So this is why, it's like speaking to the choir, but it's like when I consider for how long this has actually been going on, it's like you get tired of having to basically keep cleaning up messes, other people's messes, because that's what they are. And I can even use, it has everything to do with self-organization, obviously, right? Which is what you load into your program that's going to, essentially what it is what is the program that you're running? Which means how tight is your coil? Compression, expansion. So the efficiency of the energy. So that it works perfect. Which means you're not wasting one electron. Right? So I see it, for example, in this house. One of the things that I learned when I was a kid. One of the first things my mother told me. You make a mess, using your energy to make a mess, use your energy to clean it up. Don't expect somebody else to come along and use their energy to clean the mess that you made. You got to take responsibility for what you do with your energy. Right? That was the first thing I was taught right out of the gate with my mama. You make a mess, you clean it up. Okay? You screw up, you got to take account for you got to be responsible for your own behavior. Okay? That's called being a grown-up. That's being honorable. That means you're running on a higher level of intelligence because it means you know how energy works. It means you know how to manage your energy in such a way that you don't end up with a target on your back. Because you don't know how to behave yourself in a loving, living universe. That's really what it is, huh? So I am happy beyond, particularly over the last week, when it seems like, yeah, it's like somebody kicked the motor up a little bit, huh? It's like stuff is moving through the grid at a little bit of a higher rate of speed now, huh? It's like clearing out all the goo, burning off a lot more stuff. More lights coming in here. And that's because of everything that we all been doing. Everybody that's here. I know that this was the final dance. This is where it was all going to go down. And so you had to know everything was going to come at us. I've known that since I was at least 5 or 6 years of age when I realized I'm monitoring the changes that are taking place over time space. And then, and it's pretty easy to do, actually, to measure and gauge the approximate time when these events are beginning to unfold, because you can already see them. When you've written your own timeline, it's like you've already seen this play out, actually, when you're on the other side of it. So it's like, I've got to go through this, even though you already know the result, right? And so you got to go through that until it's over. In other words, it's like the conclusion of a play, right? We're in a movie, a war game, you know. What is it? Little Cox controllers, you know, keyboards, a joystick, and sitting at video cubicles, right? And screens, and getting information and data. This is what's going on. Do you trust the source from which you're getting the data? I trust one source, right? And that's the one I'm with, right? And so that's what love is. And so I've always known that since I was a little kid. I don't ever budge off that. So I'm always in service on behalf of the one, which is the highest law there is. So I'm one of God's messengers. That's what lives in my heart. Love is what lives in my heart. That's what I share with others. And so that's my service mode, being in service mode forever. You know, so I expose. What I do is I put my mirror up, okay, which is like a barking sand, barking crystal. Hey, you know, it's like, wake up, right? Because the way that this really works when you're a guardian, it means if I'm aware of something that might pose a hazard, because if I'm aware of what may happen to you in the future, and I can see that, but you can't, and I know that, then I have a responsibility to let you know, because otherwise, if I know it and you don't, then I got to come and heal you after the fact rather than before the fact. So I'd rather protect you before the fact than after the fact. So now I got to come and heal you. That's called prevention, just like fire prevention, right? And that's actually called pre-planning, right? So when you've already got a built-in looking glass, it means you already know the future. And that means that how long is it going to take for this unit of consciousness to be able to restore itself in a time in which it has a spiritual awakening? Wow, I remember who I am. I'm experiencing more light. I'm experiencing more love, right? And that is actually brilliantly displayed in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, because I had a friend of mine one time that he was not an alcoholic. He smoked marijuana, MJ, was what we used to call it as kids growing up. And so, but he was not an alcoholic. He might have a beer once in a while, but that wasn't his drug of choice. You know what I mean? His energy drugs of choice. It was not his energy drug of choice. And so when I mentioned to him, I've been through Alcoholics Anonymous, I've been sober and off drugs and all that kind of stuff, except for pain medicine that took me a number of years to get off that AI drug, and managed to successfully do that and transfer to plant medicine, right? And rebuild my muscles and my spine. However, what he mentioned to me was, he said, listen, I read that big book. He said, I'm not an alcoholic, but I was interested in reading it. You know, find out what's going on over here with these folks that are alcoholics, right? So he said, I read that book. And you know something? He said, there's a lot of wisdom in that book. He said, that book actually is a good way to live your life. Come on, man. Gee, you think? And what's remarkable about it is how the numbers fit. Step 11, you've had a spiritual awakening, right? Step 12, now I'm in love and service to others. And the beauty of it is that it's anonymous. Whatever your perception of power is when you come in here, we're not religious here. This is a spiritual program. That's right, it's a spiritual program. You're waking up. You're waking yourself up is what you're doing. So it means you got to surrender to yourself first, make a commitment to get well, right? Even though you know that this is going to be really hard, because there's something that's feeding on you that does not want to let you go. Okay? Does not want to let you go, and has a very devious way, like shadow beings do not want to let you go. Okay? It's like a major attachment. That'd be your spiral. That'd be your 13 Metatronic spiral. Does not want to let you go. You're the source of energy that it sucks off of. It's like a big tick. right? Like in politics. And so you got to kick that out of you. It's like, I call it getting a monkey off your back. Get out of here. Because you know that there is a spirit of fire in you that is more powerful than it is. So this truly is a test of your spirit, which is a test of how much fire you got within you. How bright that candle is that you have within your heart and your soul. To restore yourself. And you're willing to go to whatever you have to in which to do that. So when I surrendered before the one, and it happened, I cried like a baby, and I realized one day at a time, one day at a time, one day at a time, 1 minute at a time, because all the thoughts, you're being hammered. You're being hammered. You're being hammered. You're going insane. You're being attacked. Don't let go. I'm feeding on you. And it's very dangerous because this happens to people because you're fighting and struggling between one and the other and knowing one from the other. And you know that one is who you are. So you stay the course. No matter what it is, you do not drink. You do not engage in the same kind of self-destructive behavior. You're on a wellness road. You want to get well. You want to heal. You want to heal those that you've harmed by doing the things that we do to others as a result of what we do to ourselves, because that's how it happens. So I know that when healing myself, I'm healing others, because now others are going to heal the healing that I did with myself. They're going to experience that love in them. So now we begin to realize exponentially the acceleration of how this works, healing each other that way at a higher rate of speed. Because the accelerated rate of speed of what love is means we can heal folks at a higher rate of speed. And that's why, as Patty said to me one time, they're not ever going to heal you in one of those hospitals. Okay? That they're not in the business of giving you love. They're in the business of you being a customer, which means you're giving them money. So going to an inverter and expecting to get healed by an inverter is not going to happen. It's the soul, the fragments that have been lost that need to be recovered and pulled back in, so you're experiencing being whole. That's what it means to be whole, like a whole sphere, like everything within the sphere. Everything within all the spheres is experiencing what love is. You've restored yourself. Now your spirit, which is a spirit of fire, lit on fire. That's what it means to be on fire. And when you've been lit on fire, folks love to be around candle power, right? Because now you're running high energy. Whoa, you restored yourself. How did you do that? I just explained it. It's a long story, right? So you can imagine what it's like when I'm in the house with these folks that were doing this stuff, right? And it's just like right now. I don't know if you can hear that sound. It's after 11 o'clock. These folks, particularly these up here on the right-hand side, they have absolutely, it's like in their mind, right? It's like they're completely unaware that there are others that are impacted by what they do with their energy, which means they don't even have a conscience anymore. Because when people are continually blowing holes in their energy field, they're just trying to survive. They're dead. Their state of awareness is so low because they're running on such low power, okay? It's like being on a hamster wheel or doing this, because I've been there. It's called a slow gun. Okay, as a result of trauma. So these are the casualties. And this island over here in the Big Island is like a major triage facility. Okay? Come over to the Big Island. 65 to 75%, according to these folks up here, right? I know it by measuring the train, right? So you can imagine what's here. So it's not a coincidence it's the largest shield volcano, right? That you got that many units of energy that are conscious and aware of themselves, that are food. So this island, therefore, becomes a banquet center, okay? Pulling an enormous amount of low-frequency energy out of this place, right? Yeah, so that's one of the reasons why I know, and I told Karen and McDonald, it actually ends here. because this is the largest shield volcano. So when you get into DNA and shields, right, and Mauna Loa and Mauna Kea and Kilauea and the other ones, and right down the road, I told Aaron earlier tonight, I said, you know, the folks upstairs, is this something, how long are we going to put up with this recording? Because you know how it is when, you know, expecting a different result. A self-correction, you know what a self-corrected typewriter is, right? Well, you know what a hypertext editor is, right? And a torsion field movie player? Is it able to recover itself and then rewrite a different program within its own RAM? Because that's actually what it is. I did that when I went through Alcoholics Anonymous, and I thought, man, I got to remove all that programming and then rewrite a new history. It's like, you know, you're writing your own book. I have another chapter that I'm going to experience, and so this will be chapter 5, this will be chapter 6, this will be chapter 7, and then you can follow the curved space vectors of how the road of recovery actually is taking place by the road less traveled. Remember the road less traveled? What was it they said in the Bible about the camel's eye, the hole in the needle of the eye, the camel's eye? If you can make it through that little hole, what do they call it, threading the needle, something like that. There is really only one pathway, because that's the first spiral, right? That began it all, the Big Bang, as they call it. Eternal spirit of fire is the most powerful magic. So when you're lit on fire, you know what it's like to experience that energy. So if you like high energy, that would be the eternal spirit of fire. So that's the most powerful accelerator. So you love to be with powerful energy, because those are powerful spirits. And those are powerful spirits to learn from. And that's why I give all my hearts and thumbs up back to them. I give credit where credit's due. I honor my teachers. I honor my teachers first, because otherwise I wouldn't be able to experience what I'm experiencing by virtue of that. So I'm always with the first teacher. That's my responsibility. And one of the things that I knew throughout my whole life is that if that's not true, then I'm not what I say I am. That means I don't know who I am. But I know who I am. I've never lost my identity. I knew who I was at 4 years of age, and I'm still that little 4-year-old little boy that's in love with the universe, that's on fire to learn, on fire to create worlds that are born out of what we are, which is what love is. It goes on forever, so that everything in my mirror is being loved, so that I'm not having to use one electron of my energy to heal somebody, because everywhere we go, we're experiencing what love is, because they have an inherent right to be able to experience that. That's right. So that's who we are. That would be a guardian, someone who's looking out for your best interest, because that's what love is. Because love is what heals us. That's where it all began. Have a good night. Take care of yourselves. What a powerful day. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for energy. Thank you for everything you've done.